Welcome everybody to the Breakthrough Club. It's a show that is very specifically designed to invite business leaders, sales and marketing leaders who actually are rising above the noise and doing something unique to take care of their community, their team, their companies, and so on. My name is Seher Gattas. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Flawless Inbounds. We are an organization that enable B2B companies in Canada and the US to get the best ROI on their sales and marketing departments. With me today, I'm very excited to have a very special guest, Stephen Young, CEO of Garnet Instruments. Stephen, I have to tell you one thing before you even introduce yourself. I'm just looking at your CV and your amazing, diverse, if I may say, background, 17 years plus in police services, consulting, involved in hockey, a little bit of politics here, a lecturer in the University of Alberta, and then background in engineering, if I may say, and then the CEO of Garnet Instruments. Like, I'm sure myself and the audience today will learn a lot from you. Thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure, and I appreciate you characterizing my background as diverse and interesting. Some would look at it and look like a yard sale because I seem to be such all over the place, and I haven't really figured out what I'm going to do when I grow up, but I'm enjoying the challenges on the way.
Beautiful, very interesting journey. So why don't you walk us through yourself, an introduction about yourself and kind of the history of yourself.
Sure. So I'm the CEO of Garnet Instruments. We've been operating out of Sherwood Park for about 27 years now. And so I've been with the company for about 2 years. I actually started as a consultant, worked my way into as the chief operating officer, focused on manufacturing. And then as things evolved, I took the owner. He decided that he was much better at being an engineer and didn't like the sort of organizational focus. He liked to get into the engineering. So I took on that role. And so it's been a very good relationship and partnership in that way. So the road, like you alluded to, I always say, all my life I wanted to be a professional hockey player. Everything else is plan B. And so when I was a young man and decided that I had a choice between playing when I was with the New York Islanders, and they said, you're not going to play. You didn't make the team. You can go play in the minors. I decided to instead go to the University of Alberta. And I got the privilege of being able to play for the Golden Bears, the most successful hockey program, I believe. And then, of course, went to school. Got my education degree, but I tell you, when I did my practicum with grade 6 students, I figured it was too dangerous, so I decided to go into policing. And I had a unique career in policing because I was sort of known as in spite of being on the street operationally for the vast majority of my career, I was the project guy. So I had an opportunity to get into the strategic and work on various projects for the various deputies and chiefs at the time. Got involved in various organizational reviews, so that sort of sparked my interest, and I went back to school while I was working patrol and did my MBA. So kind of this lifelong learning thing is I've never been able to shake that. I started a little late because I was playing hockey, but I haven't stopped. And then while I was policing, I got involved in various consulting opportunities on the side as they came up because I just liked doing stuff. Then I taught at Grant MacEwan for 7 years because I like doing stuff, right?
Wow.
and then I did this really foolish thing. I got involved in politics, and I found myself getting elected and as an MLA in Edmonton. And so I resigned as my 18-ish year policing career and moved into politics, which is, again, more dangerous. I joke that in policing, you wear a bulletproof vest with a trauma plate in the front, but in politics, you should wear the trauma plate in the back. But really good people in there, but it is politics, so it can be a thankless and unforgiving kind of endeavor. After I went through a performance review with my constituents in the last election, I didn't get elected, so I started doing some consulting again and had some great opportunities and great projects, and ended up with doing one with Garnet that transitioned into a review of their manufacturing. And this company was something that grew up from a ma and pa out of a garage, and they hadn't really caught up to the sort of modern manufacturing practices. I mean, I didn't have to actually have anything special. Henry Ford and Toyota in Japan in the 40s have had those principles there. But like in most things, it's the implementation is where it matters. So we from a foundation of principles, we implemented a lot of the lean manufacturing principles. And through this process, I decided to take a graduate engineering course on lean manufacturing.
Sure, and why not?
I mean, we can't assume that we know anything or know everything, so we got to keep looking back. Yeah. And then I thought, well, that was pretty good. I didn't mind that, so I decided to apply it. So I'm doing my PhD in engineering now, part-time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But fortunately, it's all applied to manufacturing and the implementation of new technologies, generally referred to in the basket of Industry 4.0. So everything from Internet of Things to machine learning to AI to drones to digital twin. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these things. And where my focus is going to be on how does small businesses make sense of this? Like, where do we go? Where do we even start? It's easy. I'm not saying easy, but it's but if you're Elon Musk and you're at Tesla and have been capitalized like 18 million, so buying robots and making a robot factory, you have the capital there. But small businesses, they're really subject to the balance sheet, the ROI, and the business case of each technology.
Totally.
And so even just looking at a robot that's going to cost 50 grand, it can only do one thing. It does it very well and very efficiently. But if you haven't got enough size to make that work, what do you do? So that's an interesting opportunity where I can combine this academic kind of focus and the business focus.
That's a very interesting intersection, I think, Stephen. I'll ask you a couple of questions before we go there. So in the police service, that was almost 18 years in your CV. Is that correct? And then in the policy side and the registration, that was another couple of years there, like 4 or 5?
In politics, that was 4 years.
4 years. Got it. 4 years.
I jumped over a whole bunch of stuff in policing because I was in the senior manager in charge of information management. So we took cops from writing their reports on pens and paper and photocopiers and fax machine to create a completely digital and quality control process. So we implemented a 24-hour quality control process, standardized the reporting format, and worked with the Crown prosecutors because, and this is a bit of a mindset change there, is we went to the customer, which is the Crown prosecutors. So it's not about what the police want, it's about what the Crown wants in terms of the arrest reports. So what is their standard? And what we found is when we actually work backwards from that standard and our customers' needs, we actually reduced the sort of reject reports by 96% in the first month.
Oh, wow. Wow. And I think this is a real example of digital transformation. Like I can see that this is usually the trends, like just looking at your CV and your exposure, all your journey so far, I can see that you have been engaged in a lot of digital transformation aspects, either in kind of traditional line of business or in a very risky line of business that I think helped you as a leader to absorb new complexity and map it to business processes, organization efficiency, lean models in manufacturing, if I'm capturing this correctly.
Absolutely.
And then you want to keep learning, like this is kind of you're raising the bar and saying, hey, I'm sure the danger is in what I think I know or what I don't know. So that's it. I think that's what you're trying to go deeper into right now.
Well, I've come across, and maybe it's mostly politicians who think they're the smartest in the room. And even if they are not, that is not a good position to be. I'd rather be the smartest person in the room, which I probably are not, but think I'm not. So then I'm always looking and asking and trying to solicit the room for who else has insight on this. But if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you don't need to talk to anybody.
Yeah, you're either in the wrong room or your blind spot is really, really, really big. And
I was always conscious of that blind spot. You're absolutely right. And so this whole idea, and through my work I did with the police and the whole thing about data and analytics and managing information, there's three key things about the business process. What are the processes that we operate through?
Right.
And standardizing that. And the other thing is think in terms of data. And then you got people. And they need to be the right people that they train. So these three things really come into play as how we manage data or information, how we manage the process, and what role do people play in that. Because people do need to interpret, they're the relationship part and culture of an organization. Data doesn't have culture. It's people who layer that culture on there. And cultures can be good or they cannot be so good. So
I will go there with culture right now, and I'm glad you opened that. So Stephen, can I ask you a couple of questions? So you were speaking about the kind of the triangle, the process, the data, maybe the technology, and the people aspect of things. And you start being exposed as a leader to this concept, I think in very early age in your career in the police service, if I'm understanding that correctly. And this is like, I'm talking about 20 years ago. The interesting part right now is that a lot of technology innovators like Amazon, like Tesla, like Netflix, this is right now what they're really investing a lot of platform people and technology to be able to do that. And as you said, you can have the right platform, the right process, but if people are not following, there is no ROI, return on investment on what you're doing. And vice versa, you can have great people in, but you need to know where you're leading them. So tell us more about that. Like,
okay, I want you to take an example. Right. So when I joined Garnet, we sold products. We sold gauges, right? You want something? We'll gauge it and we'll tell you what. And that is not good enough anymore. Okay, we need to close the loop. And we're not big enough to close the loop completely in terms of sensing the data, communicating the data, managing, and doing some analysis on that. So in order for a small company to do that, we need to build partnerships. So now our lens is not about pushing products, we're pushing solutions. Now, we're actively trying to find partners who we can seamlessly hand off those things that their core business, which is data management, data analytics. We're not going to go there. We've kind of had to in some cases, kind of describe it like I'm running a relay race, like a 4x100 relay, and I do my 100 meters really good. And I go to hand off the baton, but there's nobody there. So we keep having to run the whole race. Now we're looking for somebody to hand off those things because the customer demands the complete solution. And so just saying, here's our product, and they go, okay. And then they got to search around and close the loop. So we're doing that background work to make sure we close the loop for the customer. And with the Internet of Things, increasingly, our product, there's somebody else stands between us and the customer. So either as some kind of data hub, analytical piece, or whatever, we're just one end of it. So we got to understand that market. So it's interesting, but also challenging.
Oh, I can imagine. Because again, as you said, it's like when you start stepping into the boundaries of a different organization, and both organizations are trying to service your client, you want to make sure at the end of the day, it's a win-win-win situation. Your products and services, your technology, your supply chain, and then at the end of the day, really kind of the end client, which I'm assuming end clients to Gartner Instruments, like large clients in US and Canada. So you really need to be very sensitive to that. Exactly.
Yeah, and we're trying to move through partnerships again, is because we can't grow the way we want to we can't grow our way into the level we want to impact people. So we need to do that through partnerships. So we're trying to move more to a B2B and find distributors, to find other representative groups who have supply chains. Just getting back to that whole closing the loop and our transition from products to this. Yeah, how I explained it to my staff, it said, okay, I'm going to give you a choice. You have an old computer, or you have the latest, the greatest, the fastest computer in the world, except it doesn't have connection to the internet. Which one are you going to get? Nobody's going to want, I don't care how fast the computer is. I need to close the loop. I need it to be connected. And so that's our data. It doesn't matter how good our gauges are. They need to collect into a larger business process, a larger solution, and that's increasingly involving industrial Internet of Things, where somebody wants to sit in their office and analyze the data, not sit on the truck or the device and read it locally. That doesn't help me. It's good for the
Absolutely.
guy, the
Yeah,
operator, but at an organizational level, I want that big data. I want a data lake. I want to be able to do analytics. I'm
correct.
going to business intelligence and all
Data
that.
mining
Yeah.
and taking the right decisions, not from a gut, but actually from analytics that are live. It reminds me of the old story of somebody having the latest fax machine, but he cannot fax anyone. So I think that's
Except the federal government. The federal,
for tax purposes, yes, but
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
No, that's exactly
exactly.
right. So it's
Yeah.
it's an exciting time. I think we're ahead of where the industry is coming, but we know it's going there. So we're preparing to making sure when when they want to leverage their data, because we're also going from a pushing products, which is an expense, to selling a solution, which is an
Hmm.
investment. And
Hmm.
they say, well, what do you mean an investment? At the end of the day, I'm getting paid, right? Yeah, but we're selling the ROI, the reduced cost, or what they call business process as a service.
Correct.
Business process as a service is one of two things. It's either doing the same thing cheaper with less resources, or with the same resources, being able to do more. So we're enabling that. So we're
Hmm.
creating this environment where they have an overall cost reduction and can be more competitive to the guy who's their competitor who's not doing that. So
Interesting.
that's where our sales focus is about solutions and providing a value to the customer.
Stephen, I like this so much because I see as a leader, you're actually kind of brave enough with your organization to almost step in and disrupt a market, especially the
Mhm.
manufacturing space. I think what you guys are doing is very, uh, very thought methodological in a way, because I have seen some of that happening in the software space maybe 5 to 7 years ago, where you had to buy an enterprise software solution, you have to install it locally, and it was a one-time transaction, and your capex was very high, but your opex was very low. But then software companies like Microsoft, Cisco, VMware, HP, they moved from an enterprise kind of class implementation to more of an operating model, like a managed monthly service, an MRR. And now they reduce almost zero capex, but then they start managing their opex in a way to make it more cost effective. And of course, if it's a cloud-based service, the platform is always intelligent. I can see you guys are, I'm not saying it's the same, but kind of the same maybe framework in a
Well,
way,
we've looked
and
to
you're
that
disrupting.
revenue model where we actually will provide all the solution, and you have the monthly.
Correct.
And so if you look at the sort of the evolution of we're selling parts to, so also we're selling solutions, and then we're selling uptime. We're actually selling performance. That's the
Hmm.
next one,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
eventually we're selling data. And so one thought I've heard this thrown out there is that every company is ultimately going to be a data company.
Hmm.
Like if you think of Walmart, you think of like, okay, they got groceries, they got stuff, but they're a massive, their success is basically leveraged because of their incredible IT. And they've got
Absolutely.
it all inside. So the efficiencies that they've managed to put together to keep their costs low and net competitive and outcompete the guys who haven't. And
Totally.
so
You know what? I totally agree with you. We see it even in normal consumer base. Everybody now is kind of working from home because
mhm,
it's COVID. You can see Netflix. Netflix is not an entertainment platform. It's a data-driven organization. They can
mhm,
personalize your service before even you log into the platform. They can know exactly what movies are you watching, how many video time have you spent the last
mhm.
day or week at home with your family, and so on. So then they can propose newer things down the road and stuff like that.
Well,
So
and
definitely
Amazon's
interesting.
another great one. It started off as they sold books, and we sold books. It's sort of like the, and then all of a sudden the transition from books to everything else is
Yeah.
zero. But he built the business on books and the logistics and that
Yeah.
framework and the IT, and then he went from books to like everything, and then order fulfillments and stuff, and they're huge. And so, in some sense, we've kind of taken that broader perspective. I mean, our logo is Garnet Instruments. It's a liquid level management. And so we've kind of moved away from liquid into more about sensor data solution. These are the words. So yeah, we do liquids. I mean, that's sort of been our history. But we'll do temperature, we'll do pressure, we'll do whatever. And we'll
Right.
integrate the stuff we manufacture and other third-party partners
Hmm.
because it's about the solution. It's not our particular part.
I like that. I like that, because now you're showing that you're a player. You have your open-ended platform, which means you're inviting other players to add more value to the platform you're building. And I can see the angle of Industrial 4.0, because now you're applying IoT, Internet of Things, which means now you're really kind of having your sensors are working 24/7.
Mhm.
You have the back-end cloud, which now you're really transforming the organization to be a data-driven organization. So as a CEO, and I'm thinking now, when you take decisions moving forward, the data is literally under your fingertip. Like, you can see everything in front of you.
Right. And in some opportunities, we need to build, and we're doing one right now with a big project in Mexico, is we're having to build the whole cloud out and build all this stuff. But at some point after the proof of concept, I highly suspect, because it's a big client, they're going to take over that. Correct. But we had to sort of run that relay race to prove it out, and then they'll take it from here. But,
and I think the way how you do it, Stephen, if I'm learning from you right now. So I think you're trying to build the cornerstone to proof concept and MVP. Right. Now you have the playbook, and now you can adjust and optimize the playbook for maybe smaller clients. And this is where you can be a revenue-driven model, or a business model as a service, as a business process, as a service.
Right. It was interesting. I had a conversation with this partner we were working with, and we want to use one of their products in our solution. And they're trying to direct me to one of their local distributors, a regional person in, well, it was either Texas or Calgary, wherever, because we operate in both. And I says, I don't want to deal with them. I says, that is an antiquated model. I get it. But we want to deal directly with you, where you're never going to resell. We're not a retail reseller. If we use your product, it's going to be part of a larger solution. So you can sort of feel good when you tell your regional supply guys, we're not underselling them, because we're selling a solution and you're just one piece of that. So I was a little bold in saying that to the guy, but he says, yeah. So we're working on that, because like I said, I'm not going to compete. I'm not going to resell stuff and take returns on parts. It's going to be part of a whole solution that we provide a customer.
Totally.
Trying to solve their pain point in terms of data management and communication, and offering that real value of the business intelligence, cost reduction, efficiency gains, and route optimization, those types of things.
I love where the conversation is going. Stephen, now I'm going to take you to a different side of my interview, if you're okay with that. So, as a CEO right now, a lot of things are happening in the market, and almost I can see with the CV in front of me here and all the exposure you had before. I think I'm not sure if you sleep at night or not, but
well, less now.
Tell me more about that.
My roles have been in the public sphere. And you know what? It's a completely different thing when you actually are in a private enterprise. You're going to P&L statements that matter. We can't go into debt and the way governments do. And so you have a lot of private owners, individual owners, even publicly traded companies who are not sleeping well at night.
Oh, I can imagine. And especially, I'm assuming, are you guys having a board of directors or advisory board?
Well, we have our owner. We have a leadership team. So essentially acts in the same governance structure. But yeah.
So as a CEO, we report to the board of directors or the governance, who's the owner, and then at the same time also you have responsibility for the organization health, the EBITDA, the culture, operation, innovation, all those kind of things. So I want you now to take me to the more of the culture of the organization. If I may say, if you can walk me through maybe explaining the culture of the organization pre-COVID and the culture of the organization right now. Is there any change? Have there been any kind of shift?
Well, we are certainly changing, and I think that COVID's not necessarily changing our culture. It's testing it. And so we went from a culture of where just do your job, you're not part of. We wanted people to know about the business, know about the manufacturing. The smartest people about manufacturing in our company, it's not me. I don't care how many courses I take. It's the person on the line. They see how it's done. So we challenge them in two ways. We standardize the process. But the other part is we want them to be creative and think of better ways to do their own job. And this is from Japan. They said they standardized it. Okay, but think of a better way. Bring this forward, and we will. If it works, then we'll do that. And so we also trying to implement Greater communication, also about living our values. And everybody says that, right? They throw a little poster on the wall, but how you live your values is actually when you make decisions, you look at those values and you say, wait, based on our values, this is how we're going to operate. And you communicate them that way. Based on our values, this is what we decided. You may not like the decision, but you say, okay, I see the connection between the values and the decision. So that's how we're moving towards. And then being challenged by COVID, all of a sudden we got a revenue that a V. Well, there's a couple scenarios we're looking at. We're looking at the V, where it's going to drop and then bounce up. We're looking at the L, where it drops and it stays.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that tail is going to be. It's looking some version of sort of the Nike swoop, where it drops and it just sort of slowly comes up. And we've scenarioed each one of those out. So our levers are very few, right? We did lay off a few people. We moving our production staff to half time and using the government program.
Like the shared.
And so which matches our revenue drop. I dropped my salary significantly, and our owner, same thing. We other people who are on directed vacation. These are the kind of the levers.
Correct.
And we've been telling people all the way along. Totally. And so. And one of the things important to tell them what's happening, because otherwise, if you don't hear anything, you're sitting around waiting for the axe to fall. Yeah. And so we've been keeping people aware, apprised of that, and sharing it across the organization. And we are hopefully going to give ourselves enough runway to get through this.
Absolutely. And Stephen, I'm glad I'm listening to this again from a lot of leaders, and I'm hearing it again to confirm from you that over communication during that time is so critical. And I can see kind of you guys are definitely do that. So I can see more COVID more maybe as an acceleration factor, not really a core factor in what you guys are doing to kind of to take it to the next level.
Yeah, it's like strategy is easy, budget's easy, and culture's easy. In good times where you just simply add 5% to your budget, like that is. And I'm not saying that's bad to have that. Everybody wants that, but that's not where leaders and managers make their money. They make their money at these times where they have to make the tough decisions. They have to make these scenarios out, make sure the organization survives, and so I think we have great staff, we have great people, and they're trying to get through this just as much as we are. We're treating it like we're managing the organization, but we recognize that there are individual families, there's individuals with kids, and they got mortgages and everything else,
of course,
like we all do.
It's a community, right? And you have to take care of the business so that the business can take care of their teams and their family. Absolutely. Right. I'm going to take the conversation now, Stephen, to kind of a completely different angle, which is sales and marketing for an organization like yours, because you guys you're definitely kind of transforming how the organization was before to now. So I can see some kind of digital transformation there and culture and all those kind of things. Now, if you can walk through your sales process from a very high level perspective, and if there was any traditional marketing that was applied before, and then maybe if you can compare that to what you would think the future is post-COVID, how things would go from your perspective as a CEO of an organization with that.
Well, the history is we had our owner, and he had a partner who decided to get in his RV and drive to the United States. And so he became a U.S. citizen, and he basically went around like Johnny Appleseed, like old school kind of sales guy, and he cut deals on napkins. And that was our market entry strategy.
Amazing.
And the market was fertile, and there was an opportunity with our technology. The organization grew, and it needed to evolve beyond just a guy.
And that was 25 years ago, am I right? Just to make sure. Okay.
And so now we had some market share. We were just basically responding to people calling and supporting it and servicing it. We didn't really have a lot of, if any, sales in the market. So we needed to change that because the market's changing. We're changing to a solution. So our sales guy that we get is also not a product pusher, but we need somebody who can actually sell a solution. And now we're building out these use cases.
Nice.
If you're not familiar with how I use the word use case, is we create this generic kind of structure of data flow and stuff. And it's not too specific, but if you have that pain point, you can see yourself in that use case. And there's usually only, as much as everybody's different, everybody's the same too. So there's only about 3 or 4 different kind of models.
I agree.
And
that's amazing.
So we've actually, because I'm a strategy guy, is so we hired a company to give us for marketing, and we didn't, not a implementation, not about websites, at the strategic level.
Strategic model. Yeah.
So they went into the field and they researched and talked to our existing customers or previous customers, and they said, "Who are you? Like, you're doing this transition. Is your assumption's correct?" So we validated that. Now we're going down this road, and we have a bit of a high-level roadmap. And we got to do a rebranding. We got to do new websites. We got to engage in our CRM to the level where it's actually delivering, and even our service and support stuff. So all those pieces need to connect. So all we've really done, but essential part that many don't do, is we build a platform to build off of.
Totally.
And we could have rushed ahead and built a fancy website, and it would have been amazing. But it's sitting on not really solid ground.
I'm so happy that you're saying that, because again, back to your background and your kind of your vision of where you want to be. First, you need to understand who are really your clients. Why did they even hire you? Right. And I love the idea of the case, the touch points and the case points. We define them as more persona and buyer journey.
Yeah.
Like how they engage with you. What would be a day in the life of a client of Garnet Instruments, and how can they use your platform? And why are they using your platform right now? And then what I'm hearing from you, Stephen, is that then from here, you start really building your execution strategy that then will spin off a website, social media, content, campaigns, webinars, and all. Is that kind of...
Absolutely. And I really like how you've illustrated that in some of your work, is around the wheel, and where you have this customer in the middle. I mean, there's funnel has value too, but that really resonated with me. And too often people look to the tool and try and fit their business process in it and try and jam the customer in there. And I went through this in several projects I've done. It says, I don't want to hear about tools, because man, the IT people, they love showing you tools. Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. And so until you've defined your business processes and how that looks, and then you look for the tool. And usually you find a COTS or some kind of, you customize off the shelf thing to make it fit into your business. It's interesting, when I was an MLA, and I was appointed for about a week as the chair of the provincial government IT advisory committee. It was a part of the was a treasury board, and it was mandate was to overlook all the IT and the 21 IT departments for the government of Alberta. Now, the reason I say I was only on it for a week is because Jim Prentice called an election a week later. So, but I tell you, that week, I was the most popular guy in IT. Like HP. I had people from IBM flying out from Boston, like their big guy, to come and meet with me. And even then I'm thinking, we haven't even figured out what we're doing, but they're pushing tools.
Yes.
Right?
They want to sell you the blue box, the green box. Say, guys, I don't even know where to put the box yet. And I tell you what, Stephen, I was relating to that because 9 years of my life, I was at Cisco Systems Canada.
Oh, yeah.
So when you speak about IBM and HP, so I think I get that, because I was one of those guys before. So I get it. And I learned a lot, by the way, amazing organizations. But I guess what I love about what you're saying is, guys, hold on. It's not about the pen. It's about what I want to write on this empty sheet of paper. Before
what's your vision? What's your idea? Exactly. Yeah, and you want to try to sell me a nicer pen. Like, that's going to actually make a difference in the end. The other thing that when I was running information management analytics at a police level, just wrapping my head around the idea in the police sense is this idea of entity analytics. Are you familiar with that?
A little bit. Tell us more.
Okay, so the best way I could describe it is, so you're an entity, and a characteristic of you is your first name and your last name. Okay, that is not who you are. It's just a characteristic of you. You happen to be a certain height. You happen to be a certain weight. Yep. You got a certain color of eyes. And so all these are characteristics around that entity. And so we went through a lot of stuff in terms of how do you, so what's their real name? I says, there's no real name. You are who you are, and you have all these names, and that's a characteristic of who you are. Yes, certainly one's on your birth card, but you may have a nickname from high school. Yeah. And so for a police process, we're just trying to identify the entity. And so also part of that analytic time I was in analytics, it seemed like everybody had an analyst. Oh my gosh, there was an analyst in internal affairs and homicide, and every division has and so they come up with these beautiful work, like 3-color pie charts, dots, and everything else. And if you ever want to stump an analyst, ask them, what's the question? Because you're supposed to be answering the question.
You're giving me a lot of answers, but where's the question?
So it's like having a million monkeys typing and thinking they're going to come up with the answer you might ask. But how about this? What is the question?
Yeah.
If
what
you
are we
say,
trying to
I
solve?
want to know who did this homicide, or I want to know where the best place timing to do my market entry strategy.
Correct.
Or where's the most, all these kind of things. But analytics needs to be preceded by a question.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, by the way, especially as a CEO of a manufacturing company who's disrupting the manufacturing industry in a good way. I love that this is coming from a CEO level, because this kind of tells me that the next wave of leadership that we see in a lot of industries is saying, guys, it's not about the blue box versus the black box. And by the way, it's not about the feature function. What are we truly trying to solve? And as soon as a leader, you say that, you actually raise the expectation of your team. Because you're readjusting where they should focus, and I think that's a skill set I don't think a lot of people are having. I'm glad you are on our show today to kind of echo that, because then you actually can align the team to go in the right direction. Right?
Well, there's a certain amount of competitive angst and fear that I have that if we don't do it, the business won't survive. It's a competitive environment, and customers are demanding. They want more. They want it faster. They want it cheaper, and they want it shinier. And so if you don't do that, they will go somewhere else. And so the only way we can do that is through innovation and cost reduction, or not cost reduction, waste reduction. Because sometimes things cost money, but it's got to be, we want to reduce waste. Waste is a burden not only on the producer, but also on the customer.
And that can be time wasted, that can be equipment waste, that can be optimization, how we do things better. Which I think it came from the lean methodology, or I think it was the Kaizen. Is that the Japanese?
Part of the principles, Kaizen.
You're right, absolutely. And actually that brings me to a different question, more on a CEO level. You're dealing with different managers, and each managers have their own objectives. And I know me and you spoke about this maybe a month ago about the concept of objectives and key results, and how you measure departments. Can you, in kind of maybe a minute or so, can you give the audience a little bit overview of how you're managing your managers, to make them aligned?
Absolutely, and we're just going through this. So every company's got the mission, the vision, values on the chart on the wall, and I get that. And we already talked about those values need to be operationalized and referenced in our communication. But then in terms of the objectives, usually a mission is a motherhood statement. We want to do good things, okay? And who's going to disagree with that? Nobody, of course. And that's why they're a mission statement. It's supposed to bring everybody common focus, but they're high level. So what does that mean to the guy who's in shipping? So we need to go down deeper, and we need to go down deeper to the departments and say, hey, what are some OKRs, objectives and key results? So these are sort of subsets of that support that mission, that are relevant to their job. And how I kind of think of it, it's something that is measurable, and it's definitive, and it can happen in 1 to 3 months kind of range. So
and it really moves the needle forward for this department, right? Okay.
Yeah, and so that's how I see as my levers to manage, aside from coaching individual supervisors, is to say, okay, we sit down and negotiate, and mostly negotiating in terms of
timelines
and those kind of things. Say, listen, is that a reasonable time to get that done? And they may say, no, I need another month. Okay,
let's
do it there, and then come back in that timeline and say, did we get it done?
I think this is a tighter communication between the leadership team and the division managers, so that then as a leader, as a company leader, forecasting to the board of director or to the owner,
Right.
now you have tighter understanding or iteration of what's the expected timeline to get to the results
Right.
that you want to achieve as a CEO of the organization as well.
And I'll compare this to not using this kind of approach. You'll sit down with a supervisor. So, how's it going? Any problems? No, it's going good. Okay, then. As opposed to using this methodology where you have some OKRs, you have a focus, goals, and objectives that all sort of align and
like
put
that.
meaning on that vision,
like that.
mission, and values that actually people say, okay, I get the mission. It actually makes sense to me. Only because it's connected to the OKRs that I need to deliver on. Correct. And so we're trying to have a focused and kind of conversation that actually creates change. So when you're creating the future or planning, you're trying to recruit your supervisor into a shared approach to creating that future, and a future that would not otherwise happen.
Correct. Because now he's buying to the common goal. It's a common goal between the leadership team and the operation director or operation manager.
Well, and we don't want to be just subject to the market. Oh, the price went up or the price went down. And well, that's good. Yeah. I want to be in the game.
Correct.
I want to have levers. And yes, the market goes up and down. When it goes up, I want to take advantage of it. And when it goes down, I want to mitigate it.
Correct.
And so this is where we need to be have hold of the reins in where our organization goes. I can tell you, Stephen,
I'm glad I'm hearing this from you, because objectives and key results management, that's exactly what kind of Flawless and Bound is doing for clients in sales and marketing, where, okay, what does it mean building a website? Mm-hmm. You can build but then how can I measure the results of the effectiveness of that?
Right.
Content, email campaigns. Sales process. I mean, you mentioned that maybe in the beginning, the organization was more referral, word of mouth. 25 years ago, then when you're communicating with your sales team, what is your expectation of the sales department? The speed, velocity of deals, how many touch points to have a partner or to have a new client coming in on board in your organization. So I like where this is going.
And we've done that assessment. So we've decided that, because we're a fully integrated manufacturing design firm, and nobody really in their right mind would do that, because you can outsource this stuff way cheaper, but we did. So all of a sudden I say, how do we value that? Well, I can't compete with China to produce 100,000 widgets, but China can't compete with me to do 20. I can turn that around so fast, and we have that high touch with our customer. When you get to the big numbers and you have a mature product, that may make sense to do that. We're in that space of custom solution selling, high mix, low volume, that is going to carry the day. And now we're looking at maybe doing contract manufacturing once we can leverage that really defined, rapid prototyping process. So
got it. And maybe one of the questions, and before my final one, so one of the questions is, I know you spoke about Industry 4.0. We spoke about digital transformation. You spoke about your style of leadership around objectives and key results, and kind of taking the mission vision and kind of breaking it down to pieces and adjusting each piece towards the department heads. Right. So I'm kind of trying to connect all the dots here. So as a CEO of an absolutely a growing company who's positioning products and services in the US and the Canadian market, and you're transitioning your model into solution set versus a product model, and you're applying a lot of new technology in, where do you see manufacturing organizations post-COVID? So after we're done with COVID, everything is kind of trying to go back to norm. What this new norm, from your perspective, Stephen, as a CEO? I
think flexibility, ability to scale. Even before COVID, there was a lot of reshoring from China that was in place. You have some big manufacturers in Calgary, like August and stuff, because it's not just about this pure low cost. Sometimes you can't afford to save that much money, because you lose it on the other end in terms of logistics, quality control, and those types of things. And so you got to have, I think companies are looking to be more agile, and I think that post-COVID, all of a sudden doing video conferencing has become very comfortable.
the norm, the new norm, right?
It's easy to do. And I actually, I teach a class at NATE in continuing education. So I taught it this weekend, and had to do it online. So I had 12 students all on video conferencing, and they were going into separate breakout rooms and doing these mock scenario negotiations. Wow. And as the instructor, I just be popping in each
room.
Like if COVID this would have taken like a year to sort of implement this plan and idea, but we did the hurry up offense. So I think we're going to find some some waste reduction through. I wouldn't want to be a commercial office owner right now, because everybody's working at home and says, I'm good. I don't need to go. And even Deloitte and big companies like that, many years ago, they started to do that anyways, where they reduced their footprint significantly, and then they use these as booking rooms for clients and those types of things. And then the idea of using the space when you pay for the space when you use it is going to become a bit of the norm.
Yeah, pay as you need. And you know what? And I'll tell you, like, we're seeing this also with B2B organizations in the marketing and the sales space, because now almost trade shows are disappearing. So you're going to virtual events. As you said, like sales process, point-to-point video or one-to-few video conversations. So the webinar and how you brand differently and how you capture differently. So we're seeing some of that, and especially in the B2B space. So I'm glad you guys are seeing it even in your day-to-day operation in the manufacturing space. Stephen, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for giving us this time.
Oh, it's been a great conversation. I feel like we're just sitting around having a coffee. Actually.
That's amazing, amazing, and thank you. That speaks a lot about who you are and your character and your background. Any final thought for the audience today? Takeaway for them, and any final piece of advice?
Well, I guess I was looking at some of my old papers and stuff the other day, and something really jumped out at me, and it's whole thing about there is no one thing, right? Everybody's looking for the secret thing or whatever. The success of a company is to sort of try and do well at all of these things, and not just do it well at them independently, doing well at them independently, and the interface between them. So the connection between our engineering and our production, that handoff, that's what we're working on and focused on right now. The connection between our production, our shipping, our customer and their shipping, and the service. So trying to look at this thing as a fully integrated network where people are operating on, if you're familiar with chaos theory, so I love chaos theory. It's the idea that we're operating on this set of principles. So I certainly have a role, and I have principles, but I also, it's flexible that we can operate in these within especially the small organization where we have to wear multiple hats. It scares me with somebody say, that's not my job and I only do this. Well, that's not how organizations can be effective.
That's a gigantic blind spot that competition will hit you hard on if somebody's saying that. So
and I can't afford to have that guy. I don't care how good he is. I kind of think of it like every employee and every role is like a Venn diagram that overlaps. You have your responsibility, or like I told one of my staff in Texas, I said, at the end of the day, I need one throat to choke.
Which one?
Okay, but in terms of who's responsible or who's accountable, but everybody is responsible for helping out for that person.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's
absolutely.
But
that's
I don't
amazing.
actually choke people's throats.
No, we know that. Don't worry, we know that. Stephen Young, CEO of Garnet Instruments, thank you so much. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you on our show today, and definitely looking forward to future conversation with you and your organization. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.